Being wise isn't about having all the answers. It's about knowing when to stay silent, when to act, and when to wait. Today's story is about a young man who proved that sometimes silence speaks louder than words. In a distant kingdom, there was a grand royal court filled with ministers, scholars, and nobles. Among them sat one empty chair, reserved for someone who had yet to prove their worth. The king announced, "Whoever can show true wisdom, not just knowledge, but wisdom, will sit on this chair and become my closest advisor." The court buzzed with excitement. Every day, proud scholars stood before the throne. They spoke in long speeches, quoted old texts, and tried to impress the king. Yet, none were chosen. Among them was a quiet young man who never spoke. He attended the court daily but kept his eyes low, his mouth shut, and his thoughts to himself. The nobles laughed at him. "Why do you come here if you say nothing? Surely, silence is proof of ignorance." The boy said nothing and returned the next day, and the next. One morning, the king placed a single golden goblet filled with water on the floor of the court. He said, "If wisdom lives among you, prove it to me using this goblet." The scholars rushed forward. Some recited poems about gold, some argued about the purity of water, others fought over its symbolic meaning. The hall filled with noise and pride. But the young man walked quietly, picked up the goblet, and placed it carefully back on the king's table. Then he bowed and stepped aside without saying a word. The king smiled. "At last," he said, "wisdom is not in endless talk, but in understanding the need of the moment." The goblet did not need explanation, only respect. The hall fell silent. Those who once mocked the boy now stared at him in awe. The king pointed to the empty chair. "Sit, young man. You have taught the court that true wisdom does not boast." From that day forward, the boy became the king's advisor. People realized that the greatest minds are often the quietest ones. In life, too, remember, wisdom is not about being heard the loudest, but about seeing the clearest.